Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's info session on biochemistry and biotechnology. My name is Professor Christopher Boddy. I'm the director of the biochemistry program. I'll be telling you a little bit about the biochemistry program. With us today also is Professor Corey DaCosta. He's going to be manning the chat. If you've got any questions as we go along during the presentation, please put them in the chat. Corey will try and respond to them or let you know if they're going to come up in the next slide or two. If there are questions you're looking for specific information, often we can provide you with some of that detailed info or a link to places where you can go find some more of it if you're interested in it. When I get to the end of the presentation, there'll be an opportunity for a little bit of Q&A. I think we'll cover any questions that were in the chat that were general enough that I think everyone might be interested in. And if you've got specific questions, we can put them in. You can put them in the chat and we can talk about them. All right. Great. So welcome. I'm really thrilled to tell you about what I think is some of the best programs in the Faculty of Science. It's the Biochemistry and the Biotechnology program. So, you know, when a scientist tells you something, you should be able to ask them to back up their statement with some facts, right? So when I tell you that it's the best, these are the best two programs in the Faculty of Science, you should feel like you can ask me, well, how do you know that? How can you back that up? The facts I use for that, to back this up, are that we have the best students. Year in, year out, we see that biochemistry and biotechnology students are among the top students in the Faculty of Science. We often have our students winning the gold or the silver medal in the Faculty of Science for the top or the second top GPA across all of science students. We also know that because we see our graduates go out and do spectacular things with their degrees in their chosen professions. And so these are the best programs because they have the best students, for sure. In today's info session, I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about the biotech and biochemistry programs. I want to start off by telling you a little bit about what is biochemistry. You know, biochemistry, particularly for students coming out of high school, they may not have had a dedicated class in biochemistry. Perhaps they've had biology and chemistry. And so what is it that makes this interface between them? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you an overview of the programs we offer here at the University of Ottawa in the biochemistry and the biotechnology areas. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you can do with the degree in biochemistry. So let's start off with what is biochemistry? Well, as you'd imagine from the name, biochemistry, it's an interdisciplinary science at the interface between biology and chemistry. So something a biochemist might be interested in is looking really at the chemical end of the molecules that are involved in life. So for example, this slide here shows you alpha-beta tubulin dimer. This is a key protein that makes up the skeleton, the structural elements of a mammalian cell. And on this protein, we have this small anti-cancer drug right here, bound specifically and tightly to this. And so a question a biochemist might ask is this small drug here, when it binds to the protein, what discrete interactions occur between the drug and the protein that enable it to bind tightly and impact the overall function of this protein such that it changes the biology of the cell? So understanding the structure and the function of proteins at the molecular level is something that a biochemist might be really excited about and interested in. But biochemistry isn't just at the chemical level thinking about the discrete bonding interactions between molecules. Biochemists often think about how biomolecules are functioning in the entire cellular context. And so this slide gives you an example of some of the common mechanisms for antibiotic resistance. And so, for example, a biochemist might be really interested in understanding a drug that inactivates a antibiotic and how that functions in the context of the overall bacterial cell to lead to antibiotic resistance. And so understanding the role of biomolecules in cells and in organisms is an essential part of biochemistry as well. And so we have this great breadth of science from really what's happening at the molecular level to what's happening at the cellular level, where we try and understand the basic chemistry of life. That's biochemistry. At the University of Ottawa, our biochemistry program is delivered by the Department of Chemistry and Biomolecular Sciences. This is a department of over 40 professors. It's one of the top departments in Canada. We have an extremely broad scientific expertise at in the field of biochemistry. We have experts in protein structure function, all the way out to things like host pathogen Corey DaCosta just waved. Professor DaCosta is a true expert in protein structure and function. We have experts in host pathogen interactions and in imaging protein function in living organisms or living animals. So really wide array of expertise in different areas of biochemistry. Like I said, biochemistry is a very interdisciplinary science, this interface between chemistry and biology. And so it's not surprising that we also are fortunate to collaborate with other departments to deliver part of the biochemistry program. In particular, we interact quite a bit with biology, who delivers some of our biochemistry program, as well as at the medical school, the Department of Biochemistry, Microbiology, and Immunology, who also play a role in delivering some of our classes. Because we're here in Ottawa, there are a number of research institutes and government labs that have really outstanding PhD level scientists in the area of biochemistry. And we're lucky enough that many of them are excited and interested in contributing to the biochemistry program. And so we're able to take advantage of having about 120 additional PhD level scientists who can contribute to the biochemistry program here in town. Some of them teach classes, some of them welcome undergraduates into their research labs to train them. And so we have this vast array of expertise that our students can take advantage of to learn about all facets of biochemistry. The biochemistry degree at the University of Ottawa, we offer a biochemistry degree with basically 4 flavors. That's the specialization in biochemistry. This is our sort of broadest degree that gives you training in all aspects of biochemistry, really from that molecular end all the way up to the organismal, and in many of the aspects in between. Biochemistry is a very broad field, and so we know some of the students have more focused interests in different aspects of biochemistry, and so we've created a number of options to help students narrow down the choices of courses to the ones that will give them high impact training in a specific area. And so one of those areas is this field of chemical biology. This is something that the University of Ottawa has some of the top researchers in Canada and the world in. And so we're able to offer a fantastic program in chemical biology. Chemical biology, probably many of you hadn't heard of it before. It's the use of chemical tools to try and answer biological questions. And so we provide some spectacular training in that area. Right now, one of the options that's really popular is a microbiology immunology option, not surprising, as it's really relevant to some of the things that are occurring right now in the world. This gives students training in understanding how microorganisms function and how they can infect hosts and how the host can respond to that. We also have a 4th option, this option in synthetic biology. Synthetic biology is a very new field. Emerged over the last 5 years, and it has been having a major impact on society. You've probably heard of some of the things of synthetic biology. You often hear about these maybe in the newspaper or on Twitter or wherever. Things like CRISPR, gene editing technology. All of that is synthetic biology. And so synthetic biologists might design a biological system to have a particular function. So we offer one of really only 2 training programs in the province of Ontario that allow you to get training at the undergraduate level in synthetic biology. So that seems like a lot of different programs in biochemistry. You might be worried, how do I pick the right one? Fortunately, the first 2 years of all of these programs, which is really providing you foundational science training, is identical. And so students who may enter into the biochemistry program and over the first few years learn that they're more interested perhaps in microbiology or synthetic biology can very easily change between the programs. In addition to the biochemistry programs, we also offer a degree in biotechnology. This is actually 2 degrees. This is a spectacular program where students earn both a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Chemical Engineering. This is 2 full degrees. Graduates from this program have all the rights and privileges of a scientist and an engineer. It's a fairly intensive course program. It's 189 course credits over 5 years. To put that into context, a typical degree program at the University of Ottawa is 120 credits over 4 years, so 30 credits a year. And so you can see the students in the biotechnology program are putting in pretty busy semesters. And that's, of course, because they're getting these 2 full degrees over 5 years. The outcome is spectacular, though. The students wind up being able to combine both chemical engineering skills and biochemistry skills, and they're able to do really incredible things. And we've seen graduates of this program go on to be phenomenally successful. To give you a sense of the way the program is set up and the kind of content we cover, in the biochemistry program, the first 2 years are really designed to give you foundational science training. This is training in biology, in chemistry, quantitative sciences, organic chemistry, things like genetics, and an introduction to biochemistry. And so this really sets the foundation that you need, the pyramid of knowledge to build on, which we are able to do in years 3 and 4, where we can do deep dives into emerging areas and really sort of the cutting edge of biochemistry. And so we get to do deep dives into things like chemical biology and proteomics, systems biology, bioinformatics, things like genomics. And so students can really get this cutting edge training over years 3 and 4 in various fields and areas of biochemistry. I want to highlight one of the real strengths of our program, and that's this very strong lab component. We have 3 dedicated advanced labs in biochemistry. These are run by PhD trained biochemists. So we have outstanding lab coordinators who make this strong lab component possible. And for students who are really excited about lab work, we also have the opportunity for them to do an 8-month-long research project in the lab of a professor, where they get to their own research question and they get to work on that for a sustained period of time. One of the great things about laboratory work in science is it's one of the best places to really learn science. In the lab, you have to integrate all kinds of content that you learn in your coursework. You have to see how it works seamlessly together with other content. So you may be applying your analytical chemistry skills at the same time as your molecular biology skills, at the same time as your genetic skills to try and answer a particular question or do a particular experiment. And on top of that, it's also, of course, experiential learning, and you develop all kinds of, because we do our lab works typically in small teams, you do get to develop some of these teamwork skills. So the lab component is really a key aspect of our training program. So when students finish, this is always a good thing to think about. What can they do when they've graduated with a biochemistry degree? Turns out our graduates are really in broad demand by all kinds of industry, both in the private sector and in government, of course. The private sectors, we see students go into directly out of their undergraduate training into jobs in an area like biotech. It might be, for example, a technician in a company that manufactures an industrial enzyme for adding to laundry detergent, or in maybe a non-traditional type of biotech job where you might find a biochem graduate going to work in a brewery. Definitely making beer is right at that interface between chemistry and biology. Of course, we see students get positions in biomedical industry directly out of graduation. So for example, in diagnostics as a technician, perhaps maybe in a hospital in the microbiology monitoring lab, or even in, for example, wastewater treatment. Definitely another area where biochemistry plays an enormous role. A lot of the water treatment is actually done with biological systems to remove waste components, and they need people with that kind of training at the chemistry biology interface. We're also seeing more and more biochemists winding up in the chemical industry. You know, a big change that's happened over the last few years is this tool of synthetic biology has enabled us to create microbes that we can use to produce industrial chemicals. This has led to the replacement of a number of petroleum sources for key commodity chemicals with microbial cultures that now make those chemicals both in a greener way and in a lower cost way. And so we're seeing people with undergraduate training in biochemistry being snapped up as technicians to work in these kinds of new emerging biologics-based chemical processing. Of course, here in Ottawa, we've got lots of government, and so we definitely see our students wind up in government labs. There's a lot of government research that occurs, and so students can wind up as technicians in those labs directly out of their training. There's a lot of regulatory, a lot of policy work that requires understanding of science and interfacing it with both regulatory and policy. And so we do see a really broad demand for the students that come out directly with undergraduate degrees finding employment. Of course, many students aren't looking immediately for employment upon graduation. Some of them are looking for further training. The biochemistry degree provides a fantastic platform to go into advanced degrees. For example, if you were interested in something like health professions, these degrees, like a medical degree, a doctor of dentistry, a pharmacy degree, these typically require students to already have an undergraduate degree, or at least 3 out of 4 years of training in an undergraduate degree. Many of them have exams, admission exams that students have to be able to perform well on to be admitted. And so our program, the biochemistry program, provides fantastic training for those because it really gives you that foundational knowledge at the molecular level about how life works. And so one's able to do extremely well in the standardized exams in both for medical school, dental school, and pharmacy school. Like I said, our program has a very strong lab component, and so many students find they get into the lab and they love it, and they want to go on and do graduate work in biochemistry. And so the biochemistry program provides fantastic training for students who want to enter into a Masters of Science or PhDs programs in science and in any area of biomedical research. Many of these students go on internationally to do PhDs, not just here in Canada, but often in the US at top schools. Sometimes we see them go off to Europe, Asia, the UK. And so we produced graduates that are in high demand for graduate schools throughout the world. And once they've completed that kind of graduate training, those students now find employment in as research scientists, for example, maybe in a large pharmaceutical company or in labs developing vaccines or so forth. And many of them wind up, in some cases, becoming professors like our very own Corey DaCosta here, who was an undergraduate in the biochemistry program a few years ago and is now back here at uOttawa as a professor. So I think that gets us to the end of sort of the formal presentation. My goal was to tell you today about the biochemistry and the biotech programs, which I think are some of the top life science programs here at the University of Ottawa. You get just fantastic, outstanding, cutting edge training from these programs. The environment here is second to none. We have excellent infrastructure that we keep renewing regularly, including new buildings in science and many new renovated floors of older buildings. We have fantastic people, both the professors who teach the classes, the students who are in them, the support staff who help maintain everything. Really just an outstanding package. And we hope we'll be able to have you join us here as biochemistry students in the coming year. All right, so as that finishes our formal presentation, I think this is an opportunity to do a little bit of question and answer. And Corey, if there were some common questions from the chat, now might be a good time for us to see if we can.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. There was just a few questions, and I think maybe just to reiterate, you did cover it, but you know that both of the programs will set you up for applications to dentistry and to medical school. So if you graduate with a biochem degree or the biotech combined biochem chem eng degree, then you will definitely have all the requirements you need to apply to most, I guess, all Canadian medical schools.
Yeah, we did an analysis a few years ago about our biochemistry program, and we looked at all the medical schools in Canada, and that the students who completed our undergraduate degree in biochemistry had, by the time they got to the end of it, they had met all the requirements for every medical school in Canada. This is a few years ago, so if the requirements have changed in the last few years, I can't comment on that, but at the time when we did the study a few years back, that was true.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, and that was just, again, Hamda was just trying to mean that all the prerequisites will be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Maybe we should, you know, one of the things, it hasn't come up in this session, but again, maybe the little stratification between the programs and how you don't have to enter into the concentration at the beginning. Maybe we can just mention that.
Oh, that's a great idea. I think this is about the 4 different flavors we have of our biochemistry program. It can be hard, especially coming straight out of high school, to know which one of those am I really interested in. You can, if you can pick one. If you're not really sure, you can certainly go with the general biochemistry degree. One of the things that happens is when you get here onto campus and start taking classes, or virtually as the case is right now, hopefully not for too much longer, you'll learn about all kinds of exciting new aspects of biochemistry. And as you do that, you may find you become more excited about one part than you thought you might be, as you become introduced to the intellectual depth and the exciting aspects of it. We have these programs, these flavors set up such that the first 2 years are all identical. And so as you do this development in your scientific understanding and thinking, and you develop a deeper and a richer understanding of the areas you're interested in, you can very easily swap between the programs. And so you might start out thinking, yeah, I love chemistry, I'm going to be this chemical biologist, and sign up immediately for the chemical biology program. But over the first 2 years, you might learn so much about microbiology that you think, wow, I should really be in this micro option. And so very easy to switch. It gets a little bit harder in the 3rd and 4th years because the courses begin to specialize. The programs differentiate at that point. But we know students are always evolving in their interests in science as they learn more and more about the fields. And so we try and make it very easy to move between the programs. And that's one of the things that I do as director, is I try and help students who might want to switch between regular biochemistry and microbiology, immunology, figure out how we can make that work for them. And we always do make it work.
Cool, and I think that is a good point that you raised there, that one of the things when you're choosing the program, and what's great about the biochem program, is that it does give you a lot of options to switch between programs, because it has a lot of common courses in those first 2 years, right? And so it gives you that flexibility, because as you say, your interest changes when you're exposed to new things and different fields. And I'm a case in point. I was one of those people that went into biochemistry because I needed all the prerequisites for medical school, and I didn't really know what biochemistry was. And then 3 years in, I started to realize, whoa, behind me, that's a protein, what a protein is and what it does. And that blew me away. And here I am today. I'm a professor and I love biochemistry. I eat, sleep, I talk to my kids about biochemistry. Any other questions?
I know in the last session, we got a question about co-op. Co-op is certainly available with the biochemistry program. The co-op program lets you work as a biochemist for 4 terms over the course of your degree. 2 of those are over the summer, and 2 of those are over the academic year, 1 in the fall and 1 in the winter. So it adds a year onto your degree program. But during those 4 work terms, you're working as a biochemist, you're getting paid, and you get to see what it's like day to day, every day, being a biochemist, working in all kinds of different environments. The co-op program has job opportunities in both government labs and research labs and companies, and so you can select co-op work terms that give you what the different flavors of biochemistry are like in the out in the real world.
So Chris, Abiba had a question about which option would be the best for going into dentistry, and if there's a difference.
My advice for students who are looking for the best program to get into, say, dentistry school or medical school, is to pick the program that they're the most passionate and excited about. One of the things that many of these professional schools are looking at when they're admitting students is grades, because they're highly competitive. And so you want to make sure that you've picked an undergraduate program that you're really excited about, because that's going to make it easy to put in the time and the effort to excel at all the classes. There's not a significant difference from the point of view of medical school or dental school, whether you've done a biochemistry or a chemical biology or an immunology and microbiology or a synthetic biology degree. They'll look at all of those as being spectacular, and that you've got all the qualifications you need to be in medical school. And so So really any of them would be an excellent choice.
Yeah, and I would just echo that and reiterate that you want to be passionate about it to give yourself every opportunity to excel in that program and give yourself the best chance to get into medical school or dentistry, right? And so you can, that's what's great about the biochemistry program. You can say, oh, I'm really good at these things and I really enjoy this area of biochemistry. So I'll take that chemical biology stream and still get all your prerequisites and tailor your journey that gives you the best, the things you're most interested in and gives you the best hope and chance of getting into medical school or dentistry. Yeah. All right. I think that's all we had there for now. Betta had a question about are all the courses in English? So Chris, we are bilingual, so we have French and English, the full programs at the undergraduate level.
Yes, the biochemistry program, you can do the entire thing completely in English. You could do it entirely in French.